As we keep adding new features on our game show trivia game, you may already notice we need have more and more tags, right? I mean, from the version 1, as you can see, we start with very simple setup. Each player has one button, two indicator lights, right? And also same thing, judge, two buttons, one indicator light. As we go into the version 2, we add scores, right? Double integer scores, and also we have the buttons with the judge increased by that, right? So that's only part of the improvement. As we go, you can see we just talk about we did something upgrade on the indicators, right? So we basically remove something and then we add something as a status. So it's pretty common in the industry. We have some preliminary design, then as we go we add more things, right? So same thing for the trivia game. You're gonna have more features added on top of that, but before we doing that, we have to address this problem come with the adding the features, namely the number of tags, right? So the other thing is that currently there's only 3 players, right? You may have maybe more players joined into your design, maybe 5. You want to have 5 players, or maybe even 10 players, or something like that. Or maybe judge can have more than one judge into the game, something like that, right? So as you can see, the number of tags can quickly get off the control on this increase, right, by that. So with the industry, we have to find some way to have some design with this tag improvement. All right. So one way we're going to talk about today is UDT. The other one is called Array. So let's look at the UDT first. UDT stands for User Defined Data Type, right? So that's basically you create your own data type, right? So we talk about the Boolean, we talk about double integer, we also know the time, right? For timer, counter, and those are the system defined data type. Then we as a programmer, we have opportunity to create our own, right, as a structure similar to timer, right? Because timer, if you know, it's just like a structure, a mixture of Boolean and double integer. Over here you see a typical application in the industry, right? If you are monitoring a group of tanks, right? Then for each tank you have a similar setup, sensors, the actuators, right? So input outputs, right? The point is that they have exactly the same setup or very similar, right? Then you have multiple of those objects, right? So how do you represent them in your program? And we'll just use the trivia game as example, right? In our game, right? So one thing for sure you notice immediately, right? Each player has different objects, or members or items within that, and then you have a duplicated structure with the same, right? So in this case we have 3 players. So why don't we just create a data type to match up this trivia game, right? So as you can see on this slide, I have the 2 UDT, right? So in the moment I'm going to design on that. So we have a one type we can create, we can give a different name, right? To represent that trivia judge. And then with trivia judge we have all the buttons we need, everything we want. And then especially with the trivia player, we can create a brand new data type. So for each player, they will have exactly the same data types, same members, duplicate into your program. So that's the idea of the UDT. So the advantage on this is that you can maintain the consistency on the tag and also very easily manage with the modifications. You increase the tag number or decrease or maybe change of that, right? So with the UDT, the step one is that you have to define the structure, right? Because with Studio 5000, RS Logic 5000, they have system defined data type, but you want to create your own, so you need to define what kind of structure is this. And then on step two, you can see on here, step one, this is something I'm going to demo anyway, so this is just a one picture to show you how to do that. And then step two, you create a tag according to this type. So once you have the type created, it's available for you to choose from, right? So once you choose that type you just created, then you have all the members, all the tags created in there, right? So I'm going to do the demo right now. All right. Okay, so I create a program. You can see here in this program, I don't even have a logic because that's not my concern now. All right. So with the controller organizer, if you go down, there's a folder called assets. Once you open that, you have a subfolder called data types, right? So if you look at this data type folder, it has user defined. That's the one we're gonna use. And then there's another folder called predefined, right? So if you open the predefined, wow, there's a long list, right? But there are some of them we are very familiar with. You can see here, boo, and counter, and din. If you go down, we will see the int, and there's so many of them. All right, so you don't worry, you don't have to know all of them. All right, timer, right? So you can see those again. Those, they belong to the predefined, right? I'm gonna close that folder. So now we want to look at user defined. All right. So if you look at here, in this file, in my file, I already created so many of them. All right. So you can see trivia game, judge, game, player already there. All right. In order to demonstrate, I'm going to start from scratch. All right. So just like I create a different one. All right. So I just use a different name. So first step, you need to create the type. So that's where you start. Underneath the data type, you find user defined. Then you right click, new data type. So once you have the right hand open, you can give a name. That name will be the name of the new data type. So for example, I just use short name TP, right? Trivia player. So you can type in if you want. You can type trivia player if you want. All right. So then underneath here, you can see you start to specify members. All right. So I'm gonna flow this one. So for example, in our I'm gonna follow that. All right. So in our design with the version 1, right? So the first one, we're gonna have the push button. So for example, we create a push button called PB, and then the data type will be the boo. So that's still the traditional predefined way, right? So, and then if we just create a fault, right, then that also will be boo. And then you have the yellow light, right? You can give different name you want, right? So, but you have to specify their data type. Those data type has to be predefined, right? So then you can apply or OK. So you have the TP, right? You have the TP created already, right? So remember, this is the first one. So then with this UDT intro, you can see here, you have nothing created. All right. Before I show you the second step, I can just show you the old way, and then let you to understand what I'm talking about. Right. So without UDT, probably you already are doing this in this way. Right. You may create each individual tag. So for example, you create P1 underscore PB, that's a good name, right? So represent player 1 push button. Then you specify that as a boolean, right? So then you can create p1 underscore yli, right? So that will also be double integer is a default, right? So you create a bool. Then you start. Okay, I want to create something for player 2. By that time, maybe you say, okay, player 2. Maybe call PB without underscore, right? Maybe you see what I mean? So sometimes it's really hard to keep consistent as you go, especially if you start a program, maybe start from the added tag, and also you start going to logic, and then you create the tag from the logic. Then you forgot what sort of consistency you keeping, right? Even for P1, you remember I use P1 underscore. Maybe you call the fault instead. Maybe you just use the letter F, not the FAULT to represent that. Then you see here you create a inconsistency, not between the players, even within the same player is not consistent, right? And then when you find it, you have to make change from the edit tag editor, right? So and then also you have to handle all the players, right? So if you have 3, it's manageable. But if you have 5, 7, 10, it's become harder and harder to do that, right? Then that's why we need those the UDT. So now if we want to use UDT, we just create the tag same as before, give a name. This time I'm gonna call player 1, and then underneath the data type, remember the default is a din, right? There's a button on here. You can click on that, or you can just directly type in, right? So let's just follow one way. So if you go down the list, those just the predefined system defined, right? If you go down, you will find TP, the one you create, right? So that's underneath here, TP, right? So it's there. You can specify TP as there, right? So then you can open that triangle. You see that it has push button fault yellow in there already. You don't have to create those members anymore. And then if you remember player 2, you want to create exactly the same thing. This time you don't have to select. You can just directly type in because you know the name TP, right? Then you're done. Once you open the player 2, you can see here it has exactly the same member, same structure as player 1. In the same way, you can create player 3, no matter how many of them you want to create, you can create in this way, right? So in this way, you don't need those individual tags anymore. You can just delete them. Just keep using those. If you look at here, it's pretty clean, right? When you open this tag browser, you only see 2 players. Within each player, it has same structure, same member, right? And also the other thing is that, remember as I said with TP, right? So later on you find out, okay, I need a score. With this score, it's not a bool, it's a double integer, right? So then I can go back, specify that, and then apply and confirm and OK. So now if I go back here, open the player 1, player 2, they have the score right away. Player 2 also has the score right away, right? Then later on as we go, remember that the fault light and yellow light is not good, right? So we don't it's not it's okay, right? So it's just we want to improve on that. We can delete them, and then we can add the status, right? Remember the status as the double integer. So that means we modify that. We make change on that structure, right? So now if we OK with it, Then we go back here, look at the player again. For sure, it's very easy to make change on that. Alright, so as you can see, this is a huge advantage over those individual tags. Right, so this is one thing you will start to practice with UDT. Right, as you go, you will see with more specific design, you will love this approach, right? Because that makes your tag management much more easier than this. All right, okay. So this is one way. The other thing I want to talk about is called array. So array is just a block. It's more like a computer science concept, right? So it's a block of multiple pieces of data, right? So with the array, you use the subscriber to get individual piece of data. So this is what I mean by that. For example, with the 3 element, if you have 3 element with the array, you use the name to represent the array, then you have the square bracket start from 0, 0, 1, 2 to represent the 3 elements, right? You can also have a 2-dimensional array, right? So like the tank, remember the picture I just showed you? It has 2 dimensions, right? So that's why you need to use 2 numbers to represent them, right? So that's the other way to manage your tag. So make it very easy to increase or decrease, right? So how do you create a tag? Same thing, same way as before. When you create a tag, you have the button, then you can specify the dimensions. All right, I'm going to demonstrate that you can not only 1-dimensional, you can have a 2-dimensional array. Right? So okay, let's start with the demo. Right? Same thing on here with the tag editor. Right? So same as before. If we look at the trivia game again, right? We're not talking about the logic. We just talk about how do we organize the data, right? For example, we have a lot of push buttons, right? So we can call just P represent player push button, right? So for example, that's like that, all right? So I think we could do that. So click this button, then the data type should be blue, right? So we keep using that, and then you can see if you follow my cursor at the bottom part of this window, you have dimension 0, which is right now the default is 0. So we can create a 3-dimensional array. All right. Once we click OK, you have this PPB. That's which. I see. So that's something I hesitated before. With Boolean, I think they can only have 32 because that's a double integer, right? So I suspect actually internal is like a double integer, 32 bits, right? So if you let's try it, all right? So if you specify something greater than 32, let's see what happens. If I click OK, see what happens. Yeah, you can see here, yeah, just like what I suspect, right? 64. You have to double the 32. All right. So this is not very good example as the starter of the array because Boolean and the double integer has this relation, right? But if you do a different way, like a double integer, right? So like this, player score, right? That's a double integer. So like our game, right? So if we have 3 players, we can specify this way. So let me delete this. All right. So in this way, you will have a array, right? So you will have the array of the 3 elements, and then with different subscriber subscribe is 0, 1, 2, right? Each of them is a double integer. right? So you can also specify other type of the arrays. For example, if you use a T to represent a group of timers, right? You can just timer, right? You can give the type timer, and then also click. You have to click this button, right? To, for example, you want to have 5 timers in this array, then you have them. So when you open this, you have T0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of them is a timer. If you keep going, then you have the timer structure. Preset, accumulate, enable, TT, embed. And because double integer is also structure, double integer, you can keep going like that, right? So you can see the star shows the layers, the levels, right, on different of that, right? So that's again, well, I'm not talking about the logic yet, right? Because obviously with the data type different, you program, you will use those data differently. Even use different type of instructor, right? So we're gonna have maybe future topics on top of that. All right. Maybe you are curious, right, at this stage. Maybe you said, okay, is it possible to create an array of UDT, right? So because that's what we just talked about, like on this video, right? But first, I want you to understand the difference between these two. Same thing is that they both are organized the way of how do we organize the tag, but they organize differently. With UDT, we can have a mixture. You can see here, bool double integer into one structure. That's UDT. But with array, you have to have each of the element has the same type of data type. This is they're different, right? But they also both have a way to organize the tag, right? So now, if you're curious, right? So if we create a tag name called P, only with one name, this time we want to specify as a trivia player, and then if you go into here, make the element 3. Here, notice once you specify there's a dimensional 1 available, right? So now we only want to have one dimensional. Click OK, and then you, yeah, that should be good. Yeah, because we made some changes on there, right? So you can see here, we have a P to represent the 3 players. We have a P square bracket 0, 1, 2, 3 players, right? With each element, which is a trivia player UDT, it has a push button, score, and status, right? So in this way, you don't even need those individual players, right? You only need, you can see here, you have one tag name P to represent all the 3 players, everything in there. You could have them everything into this, organized in this way, right? So that's what I mean. It's a very nice way to organize your tag, right? And then let's talk about the 2-dimensional, right? Let's talk about tag, right? Those tag, remember the we don't have. Do I have a? Let me see. UDT. I don't have the existing ones on here. Let's just use the TP, the one we create, right? So for example, just we pretend the TP is just the UDT we created to represent the tag, right? So I just want to show you how do we create a 2-dimensional, right? So for this, you can see here, with dimensional 1, we can have the 3, and then dimensional 1, we can also have maybe, for example, 2. Right, then you have a dimensional 2 available, right? So we don't want to go further. So we just want to have a 2-dimensional, 2 by 3, right? Then you will have 6 of them, right? So if you open that, right? So you will have 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2. right? So again, with this type of organization of the tag, your program gonna change differently, right? Probably you're gonna use different strategy or even different instructions to access the data. But this is a good start point for you to have a systematic way to organize your data, right? Imagine in the industry you would have a lot of situations like this, right? So this is a very good technique to learn to have.